the go live button. And that should do it. Let's go and look and see if we are live. Make sure I don't have the YouTube video open. I do.
Maybe make sure I have my thing turned down.
Turn down your.
It's more funny if I don't.
Caller, turn your radio down.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, we're live. We are live.
We're live.
We're live.
What's up, everybody? How are you?
Always
Nice to
Radio
see
says howdy.
Oldies Radio is the heavyweight reigning champ of the entire world of the Minglewood.
Minglewood super fan.
Yes,
Minglewood
he is the heavyweight champion. We have to figure out an intercontinental champion next.
So I watched Survivor Series 1988 today, by the way.
Yeah, which one? Oh, okay, so you wanted to watch a bad one, huh?
Yeah, so again, it is what it is. Those first matches are long. They're very.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Hour.
It is like those. Like to me, Survivor Series is one of my least favorite. Of the, it's hands down my least favorite of the big four. But there just seems like when the early ones, when they just had nothing but like 6 and 8 man tag matches, whoo-wee, that is a chore to get through. You're talking about 25-minute matches of just that's an endurance test to get through some of those.
And honestly, it should, like, when you think about Survivor Series, it's just what the Royal Rumble just does it better. Like it's such a better format than Survivor Series. It is a long, like, yeah, it's interesting. But it was, I watched a little bit of that. What was it? The Saturday Night Main Event or whatever that was filmed like the same time right before that or whatever. So, but yeah. Oldies Radio, heavyweight champion of the Minglewood County Preservation Society and Pit Barbecue. He got like 38 CDs last Friday and a book from 1889. That is cool, Oldies Radio. Was this flea market sort of stuff, or what were you? Where did all this come from?
Maybe he bought a book for $18.89.
And a book from 18. It's like a sliding scale from 1889. Could be 1995, somewhere in between there.
Well, tell us some of the CDs you got, like just a couple, or all 38, whatever. We're easy. What's your favorite that you got? A book sale. Okay.
It's the book sales are always a good time. They're always, there's like the fill a bag for $1 or something like that. Yeah. Wolf. All right. There you go. Not all who wonder is lost.
Lost. Yeah. There we go. Right on. Very cool.
That's right. We see. We were a couple. We were a couple of
literary nerds.
Literary nerds, or whatever.
Why is Rebecca your favorite on Pawn Stars?
Different Change by Steve, right?
Okay. I like The Same Trains by Steve Left. That joke wasn't funny. Okay.
Nope. So, as you can see,
get them out early, folks.
By the title, we're going to talk about 1978. Craig has returned.
What up, Craig?
Hola, amigos. Craig, we've missed you.
¿Cómo está, amigo? Muy bien. Yeah. We hope you are doing well, Senor Craig. From
we've had a lot going on.
The breadbasket. We've been busy. We've been very busy.
So thank you if you're subscribed to our Facebook page, you can get an idea of what our schedule is. So if we don't post anything on Facebook, we'll be here on Thursday. So Tuesday. Sorry, it's been.
See what we mean? It's just everything's just running.
Exactly. But so yeah, I did want to give out a shout out to Kevin, Dr. Strangely Strange. He had sent me a package a couple weeks back, and I did a video for it, and the audio was was terrible on it. I don't know what I did from, I guess from doing it on Zoom, it seems to be better. But then when I tried to record it with like the regular camera, it just was garbage. So,
Mm.
Kevin, I will, at our next Minglewood event, I'll make sure I'll bring what he brought. I will, or what he
Okay.
sent to me, and we can talk about that. But Steve, before we get into the year that was 1978, do you have any show and tell, or do you have
Uh, yeah, I've got
anything
a
anything not 1978 related that you wanted to talk about?
yes. I'm going to go ahead and get this one out early because I think I'm going to be probably. Who knows? Maybe you'll surprise me. Mark, are you a fan or have you heard of Kiss Unmasked from 1980, the
No.
follow up to Dynasty? No.
I'm
Okay.
familiar with it, but I've never heard it before.
This is a fantastic pop album. It really is. It is, and I can say this with all sincerity. It's one of my favorite Kiss albums. I think that Paul Stanley is an underrated pop writer, and I'm saying this with no sarcasm whatsoever. It also houses my favorite Kiss song, "All That I Want." So if anybody is curious, that is something that I have been playing a lot lately, just because I like hooky, cheesy pop music from the early 1980s, and that just really uh, stuck in my head often. So
That's very nice.
the second one, are you a Steely Dan fan, Mark?
Not really.
Man, I am 0 for 2. Okay, Countdown to Ecstasy, their second record I've been listening to a lot. That is probably my favorite Steely Dan record, although they're all really good. I think that, as far as their heyday, I don't think they made a bad record. And
Can we
King of the
talk a
World's,
moment about
please.
so like Steely Dan, and one thing with this 1978, looking at these 1978 records that I did, um, I noticed that there's like 1978 to sort of the present is really when I think when you and I started record shopping in like the early 2000s, these are those
Mhm.
records that you saw all
All the,
the time. Did
yep.
you get that too? Did you feel that as
Yeah.
well too? Okay.
How many times did you see, the soundtrack to Grease or the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever or
The Sergeant Pepper
whatever
one,
bar?
right?
Yeah, exactly. Or whatever Barbra Streisand album came out in 1978. You saw
Exactly.
those, and you saw those all the time.
Yeah. So I think that there's sort of this weird parallel. I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, we're talking about Steely Dan. I
Yes.
feel like Steely Dan is one of those bands that you used to see their records all the time. One record you never saw was the Pretzel Logic. You'd never see that one, but you always saw sort of like the other ones. In my opinion, like I'd see them all the time. Um, and they're one of those bands that have sort of jumped into, so you have like your Hendrix and your Zeppelin and your Floyd and Beatles and Rolling Stones, that they're those like upper tier bands, like
Hmm.
those records are all like $25 now, right? Like original pressings of those,
Oh yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
But the Steely Dan are like the new floor, right? They're like the $12-15 records, which is bizarre to me because they used to be,
Well,
you know, a dollar.
I I think that with the more people that are getting into vinyl and more people that are listening, buying vinyl to actually enjoy the medium, I think that with the new technology that's out, those records really sound amazing, especially something like Asia, or even Countdown to Ecstasy, like I just
Mhm.
mentioned. I think that if you have a really good system, they sound excellent, and hopefully that could be the reason why they're in demand. But I mean, they're a great band. Like I said, I think from the first album, Can't Buy a Thrill, to Groucho, I don't think they made it bad album at all. I think they're all really great. They're all really, yeah. One of the things that I think people kind of overlook about them is their humor. It's not overt. It's kind of more of like a sarcastic humor. But I think it's really well done. And King of the World, I don't know how you don't listen to that song and just like fall head over heels with that band. But that's what I've been listening to. A couple more I want to talk about.
Well,
I'm going to be
hold on, hold
okay.
that
Okay,
thought.
I'm sorry,
So
getting ahead of myself.
yeah, but talking about Steely Dan in particular, I think too the other thing that you and I need to keep in mind is, the music that our parents played, which are, we're sort of more apt to sort of lean towards the 60s. Like now
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that are, their parents they were listening to Steely Dan, or they were listening to Elton John, or they were listening to
Fair
Fleetwood
enough.
Mac. So I feel that there's that shift as well too. But I think you also have bands, or groups or people or artists like, like for instance, Taylor Swift, who, kind of harkens back to that time frame, or that's sort of the that sort of mellow rock sock, like the Doobie Brothers kind of, that time. And there's do you is the Doobie Brothers in your, that's that one from 78 that's in there.
Yeah,
Um,
minute by minute,
yep.
I didn't put that in there. I mean, that's a great record, but I kind of went, no, it's not in there, but I do like that album. I am not the biggest Michael McDonald fan, but I mean, that album is full of hits and full of hooks. It's hard to deny that record.
So I think that, yeah, that's this is going to be fun talking about these records, especially the ones that we've picked out. Uh, Oldies Radio said my parents were teenagers in the mid to late 70s. So there you go. So it's the same.
That's
It's the same as just wait till all that music from the '90s is going to be the stuff that you hear in the dentist office and stuff like that. I mean, it already is. It's already starting to do that. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. It started to trickle in
yeah.
a little bit, but yeah, that stuff is, going on 30 years now, which is hard to believe. Um, so yeah, Sergeant Pepper movie soundtrack. Yeah, I was saying that was sort of towards the end of '78 or summer of '78, I think. So, but yeah, Grease soundtrack, like you said, Steve, that was one.
Yeah.
You can still find that one for $1, but man, you saw that all the time back then for sure. So, all right, what else you got, Steve?
I, I think that in order to own or operate a Goodwill, it was mandatory to have 3 copies of that album in
Yeah,
stock at all times.
right, exactly.
So, this is an album I'm sure you are familiar with, and I'm sure you
Oh,
have.
okay.
It's the
Yep.
first New Riders album. I put this on today. This is just what a mellow, great, laid back album this is.
Yeah.
Just great. I just enjoyed it, man. It's great. Jerry shines on it. The songs that he plays on it, you can tell right away.
Oh yeah. I
That
mean,
that is Jerry.
his
So
just the way that his we'll just say that the way that his pedal steel guitar just like chirps, like he just has, that's his sound.
beautiful.
Like it's not like the 60s country, like the Pete Drake sort of that, how it just sort of talks. It was more like chirping. But
Yeah.
yeah, the first one's good. That used to be my favorite one, but I really have moved sort of towards Power Glide as sort of that's kind of the one that I listen
Wow.
to quite a bit now. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I went on a kick with them a little while ago, and it just was like, I don't know. There's just some pretty. I think it's with that, like that Commander Cody sort of kind of thing, that vibe of,
Sure.
really got into them. So I've been kind of leaning that direction, but still, like you said, an amazing album, definitely worth picking up. Does that have any bonus tracks or anything like that on it?
It
Or
does. It
okay,
does. This has got 3 live tracks of
okay,
Down in the Boondocks, The Wait, and Superman
okay,
from Fillmore West 7 to 71,
yeah. So
which I'm sure they were playing with the dead at that point.
yeah, I believe that's even the I feel like that's on their. They have a Owsley Stanley box set, and I believe
I'm sure they do.
that's on there. That's definitely worth picking up. I think there was
Yeah.
four CDs or something like that in it. So I'm kind of
Okay.
that Johnny Cash one came out with them, but they really haven't announced any, what their next release is. But I've been, checking out the Owsley Stanley Foundation for some good treats. So
And the last thing I'm going to talk about, I've been streaming this and I have been listening to this for the better part of a week. It's the new Frank Zappa set, The Mothers, 1971.
okay,
And, my opinion hasn't changed much on the Flo and Eddie era. I do like that era.
hmm
Some of it is dated, but some of it is just so good. Like, I mean, that is a band that was just so hot and so well rehearsed. Every Peaches on there is fantastic, and there's 3 or 4 different versions of it. That's a great set. That's one that I'll probably end up picking a physical copy of.
and what is it, like 5 CDs? Like what is? Do you know what it
No,
is
it's
on?
like 8. It's like eight
Okay,
CDs.
okay,
Yeah,
quite a bit.
it's all from their Fillmore stuff from 71. They've got the complete show that he played with John
John
Lennon and
Lennon.
Yoko. Yeah, exactly. So you get that entire show. So yeah, it's great. It all sounds really well. It's all soundboard. It's all cleaned up. It's no tape hiss at all. It's great.
That's
So
cool.
been listening to that a lot. So I would recommend that for sure.
Yeah, I've been looking into that. There's a handful of things that I've been kind of eyeing up, and actually, like really for the last 2 weeks, I think I got those a couple of those Sandy Bull CDs
Yeah.
recently, but again, it was just more so stuff that I had on vinyl that I was like, hey, let me get a CD copy of it, and because the vinyl sounds good, but it's again just to be able to stream it and whatever. It's like it's that. So, uh, Craig says glad to hear about that Zappa set. Might have to pick that up. So,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah. It's great.
yeah, it's definitely that's up there too. The same with that Hot Rats one. I know that came out like 3 years ago now at this point, but like that seems like that's definitely seems like something worth getting. So it's just it for me. It's just like I'm not usually somebody that buys Zappa brand new. Like I usually just try to I would say that like 90% of the stuff I got was used. So it's
Okay.
it's for me it's just kind of like one of those things. Like he's not one of those artists that I always think about like, oh, what's his release schedule? You know what I mean? Like, or what does he
Oh,
have
it's like
coming out?
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like every quarter, the
exactly.
Zappa
So
family is tossing something out. So,
yeah,
which that's not a shot. I appreciate it. Like, yeah,
yeah,
all that's it. Throw, yeah, release it all. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So and
that's
that
it.
that was your last one. Okay, I really just have one thing that I mean, and I've been listening to this probably the last couple of evenings, just sort of falling asleep to this. This is on the Esoteric label. It's called Banquet, The Underground Sounds of 1969. So they have another box set that's coming out in May, which is all progressive 1972 kind of stuff. So really, there's like a 69, 70, 71, and then 72 is coming out. Which to me, that's sort of like there's definitely a sweet spot in there for
Mhm.
just rock music in general. So I have Yes, Genesis, Vandergraaf Generators on here, Fat Mattress, Barclay James Harvest, Fairport Convention, Straub's Deep Purple, Mighty Baby, Egyptian Tune. I know
Okay.
you're a
Yeah.
good fan of that one.
Yeah.
10 Years After's on here. The Deviants, Sun Forest, which is so you've watched the movie Clockwork Orange quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Absolutely.
so you know that sort of that I Want to Marry a Lighthouse Keeper thing.
Yeah.
That's the band. That's Sun Forest. So they're on here.
Okay.
So they have I have their CD too that it's on the Nova label, which was sort of like a subsidiary of Darum or Derum or
Okay.
whatever you want to say. So, but Fleetwood Mac, Coliseum, Juicy Lucy, just like that kind of British.
Juicy
Uh,
Lucy's underrated. I like that. All
yeah.
three of their records are really great.
So there's lots of good stuff on here. A Salty Dog, Procol Harum.
Yeah.
So that's another one of those great tunes. So, but yeah, I've been listening to that 3 CD set, and of course, the the absolutely massive the absolutely massive booklets that you know
Love
that they
that.
have. So you can just kind of get lost in these kind of things. So I've been really listening to that, and I've just been sort of listening to it on repeat. Just put it on the beginning and just kind of go through. And I know a lot of my stuff that I talk about, I listen to a lot of comps, but like that's just sort of like I don't know. It's just really hitting the spot for me. So
That's what you're
uh,
into. That's all good.
I'm just checking the comments here. So
Oldies Radio brought up Andy Gibbs Shadow Dancing. You a fan of that song?
not exactly.
Oh, okay. I dig that song. I know Mark and I
Okay.
that whole disco line is equated to the
are we
English.
are we going to talk about the Bee Gees again and how we don't see eye to eye
No,
about the
no,
Beatles?
I've derailed 2 shows doing that. I think I'm gonna stay on the straight and narrow this time.
There you go. All good. So let's talk about 1970.
1978. So
Or
yeah, I
78. I'm
picked
sorry.
this.
Yeah.
I picked this year just because I figured like this would be one that would be. I don't want to say hard, but this is one that I don't feel like people would immediately go to.
Got me
You
out of my
know,
comfort zone. I'll tell you that much. I was like
well,
really.
and that's what I could have gone with 71 or 73 or something like that, but I specifically chose 78 just because it's like this will open up things, I think, so that we'll kind of talk about stuff maybe that we haven't before, or at least records that we haven't talked about before. We have talked about the band, and just like you said, getting out of your comfort zone. And I want to do the same. So I am all too anxious to see what you brought, and I hope that you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really there might be some things in here. There's probably going to be some predictable things, but I think there's
Sure.
there's going to be some parallel lines. Yes, Oldies Radio. That was 78. 1978. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
even if you sort of look at, we if we talk about sort of 1977, where we talk about sort of, you have the, kind of the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, and then the Clash, and really that, by January of '78, the Sex Pistols broke up. There was that they had their, show in January in at the Fillmore West. And that was pretty much the end of it. But you definitely have sort of this kind of this, the new wave obviously is really, it's not punk, it's more, a little more polished, which is cool. There's a lot
Mhm.
more, kind of pop stuff. Um, Oldies Radio, you're knocking out some good ones. Yeah, the Cars, Van
Yes.
Halen. Yep. Songs about
More
buildings and
songs.
food. Yep. So Talking
So,
Heads. Exactly. Yeah. So you're probably spoiling the show. So, but we'll, but we'll see here. But I kind of put mine in chronological order. I know that I said that maybe that would be the best approach here. So,
and I
uh,
did the same.
you did the
So
same. Okay, great.
I did the same.
I'm going to talk about a record that came out in on January 18th. So do you have anything earlier than that, perhaps?
I do not. February is where my list begins.
Okay. So this is January 18th, 1978. Is
I came close to snagging that one. So
Warren Zevon "Excitable Boy"?
love that
Um,
record.
so this was my introduction to Warren Zevon. I mean, obviously with Werewolves of London. I mean, how can you not sort of you know be like that's like, to me, in a way, he's a one hit wonder, right? So I mean, I know he had other hits, but that's
Sir.
that but no, but like that's the one that everybody knows, right? So like if everybody was like, hey, this is the one Warren Zevon song, is that song. But yeah, no, his other albums, Carmelita, all that stuff, but this is interesting. So Linda Ronstadt's on this. Waddy Wachell's on this as well too. So I think he was with, what was he with, the um, I don't think he was with the Wrecking Crew, but he was with something. I can't. It's eluding me right now. But yeah, this is just a fantastic album.
Yeah.
Johnny Strikes Up the Band, Rolling the Headless Thompson Gunner, Excitable Boy, Werewolves of London, absolutely like uh, martyr. That's side one. That's, I
Yeah, I
mean,
was gonna say, and
it,
that's just the first side.
yeah. So again, and of course, Lawyers, Guns, and Money, the way that it ends. Um, this is a great album. I think it's just in its entirety, not one that you see that often. I think maybe I've only
No.
seen a couple of copies in my travels, but this is definitely an awesome album from early '78. So, but I think what to describe it, it's sort of like that California sort of, that was sort of the sound of, the bands that were not necessarily these guys that were selling out, the coliseums and things like that, but at the same time they were still having, massive hits, or just really awesome albums that were just, the entire album is a great album. So yeah.
And it's Standing in the Fire, which came out in like I think '84, is a really good live
Live album,
record.
exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the best underrated live albums you could ever find. So good choice. Really good choice.
That's the Werewolves of London, where he says he's looking for James Taylor.
Yeah.
So, but Warren Zevon, I mean, I think that, I'm sure that, I think you probably were watching VH1 at the same time that I was, and in right before he passed away, where they were
Yeah.
really just, there was like that almost reality TV show, I think, where they had there was a couple, I want to say like one or two seasons or something like that. I felt like there was like, it was on, it always seemed like it was on all the time.
Well,
Um,
yeah, he was making that last record.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
it was sad. Like, it was just kind of sad that it was like, here's a guy that's like, we know that he's going to pass away very soon, and it's just like, but we're going to follow him around and document. Yeah. So enjoy every sandwich.
In which, yep.
So yeah, very cool. So Craig, you got that one? I'm sure you do. Um, and you said your next one, you said February was your next one.
Yeah,
Um,
so why don't we do this? Like,
okay.
if we can go month by month. So if
Yeah.
you've got other ones for January, then
So yeah,
then
so the other one that was in January that I thought was a great record, that, see, I have this little stack of records that are, I have a portable record player, right? It's like you charge it up and you can whatever. So I bought this small stack of like dollar records that are just like those like Three Dog Night's greatest hits, and
Yeah.
and like I said, Bloomfield Cooper, and the Cooper one where it's like Super Session and the Live Adventures, and I would just those are just records I take outside and I play, and it's just like I don't have to worry about like okay they get beat up or
If
whatever.
something happens to it,
Yeah.
or yeah.
But this record is in that stack, and I just couldn't find what I did with that stack. But Jerry Rafferty's City to City, uh,
Okay.
which of course has Baker Street on it, and right down the line. Um, it's an awesome album. I mean, it's another one that I feel is you saw all the time for a dollar, and it's one that you should pick up if you see it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I didn't bring it with me, but yeah, that one is another one that I would highly recommend from
I
1971.
am not. I'm familiar, of course, with Baker Street with that saxophone hook. How could you not be? But
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with that record at all.
yeah. I mean, and it's. I think there's maybe three. There's probably like three of his like. I mean, that's like his biggest hits are on
Yeah.
that particular album. Of course, post Steelers Wheel. I think he maybe has three or four other albums that were solo albums, but that's the biggest one. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you know what the cover looks like. It's just that him with like the guitar on the front. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oldie Radio says "Sniffing the Tears," driver's seat. That's one of my all-time favorite songs. That's if, I think I heard that in Boogie Nights when I saw that movie many years ago. Probably too young to see it, but yeah, I love driver's seat. That's a fantastic song. My dad really likes the Nick Glider song, "Hot Child in the City." I think is what you're thinking of. "Hot Child in the City." You know
I've
that song?
seen those records before, but I've just
Yeah,
never gotten
yeah.
into Nick Glider.
So okay,
Okay.
what else you got from?
That's all that I have from January, and I don't have any from
Okay,
February, so I'll throw it to you.
I have I have two from February.
Ooh.
So I'm going to start it off with this. I enjoy this record quite a bit. And this is a band that I don't think you and I have ever talked about this in our personal lives either. Little Feat.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you familiar with this, Waiting for Columbus? This is
So
a live record.
so I have that. I have that. It was
Okay.
one of the first records that I ever got. Um, I've never really given it the chance that it's gotten. I mean, it always comes up on lists and things that's like, the best album that Little Feat put out, and of course the connection with Low George, and is it George Low? Low George, right? And with
Yes.
Zappa and everything like that. But yeah, I just never
Well, of course, he produced Shakedown Street.
exactly right.
So
So yeah, there's those connections there, but I've never really given that particular album um, its due, and I feel like that's one I should probably pick up.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a fun live record. It's not it's not the best live album, but it's a good fun record. And I would say that yes, I can say probably unequivocally that it's there. It's probably their best record.
so is it a greatest hits live basically, or what is it?
Essentially,
Okay,
yeah, is essentially. But I mean, it's. I mean, it's got 15 songs on it, but you get stuff like like Dixie Chicken that everybody knows and Willin',
yeah,
but you also get some other stuff on it. Stuff like Day or Night and All That You Dream that are not necessarily hits, but just kind of like album cuts. But yes, to boil the fat and everything, yeah, it's essentially at that point in time a greatest hits live. So yeah,
cool.
it's a lot of fun.
So how did you
So and
discover that particular? How did you come across that?
So Little Feat was a band that I got turned on to by a friend of mine in high school, and I'm trying to think. We were at it was either Barnes and Nobles or Circuit City. Remember Circuit City? And when you would scan a CD at the listening booth, and it would play you 30 seconds of each song, it
Hmm.
would suggest if you like this, you'll like that.
Okay.
And I think we may have been listening to like the Birds or something like that, and said if you like the Birds, you'll also like this. And of course, you kind of click that, and then you preview that, and so that ended up causing us. I think Feats Don't Fail Me Now or Time Loves a Hero, whichever one of those was the first one that we nabbed. But their first album is really good as well. The one where they're all standing in front of that mural of snowfall out in the desert. That is a
Okay.
really great record too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of how I ended up getting turned on to them. And then that's a record that you see pretty regularly for pretty cheap.
Yeah, well, and again, it is one of those things that they're another band that sort of has ticked up a little bit. I mean, there was that There was like
Well,
that release for Record Store Day for them, wasn't it? Like a bootleg or something like that, or what was?
well, they've kind of, pardon me, they've kind of turned into, um, like a jam band that
Okay,
kind of has that kind of cult following a little bit.
okay,
They're still out touring and putting out live records and bootlegs and things like that. So they're very much in that kind of Grateful Dead, Fish, that kind of camp. So
yeah. Well, there's and there's a lot of bands that's sort of like, it's interesting how that I feel that they have they've sort of moved into that, like people have become a little more comfortable with that type of scene where, again, we talk about, listening to Grateful Dead in 2002 was not necessarily the coolest thing that you could be doing. And
right,
with Bonnaroo and things like that, you got bands like, you think about My Morning Jacket, right? So all these bands, Grateful Dead does this thing where they go to Mexico, and Fish does this thing where they go to Mexico, and My Morning Jacket is now doing that. So it's now becoming like a thing. Like that's just like
sure.
people want to see multiple day, kind of, that's what they want to see. They want to see their bands across a couple of days and things like that. So it is interesting how that scene has kind of, um, I don't know. Maybe it's all the legalization of marijuana and things like that that have just
I'm sure
made,
that helps.
like has made that a little more socially acceptable.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, definitely, you think about 2002, and there was a Dead reunion, of all
Yeah.
the other ones, and what was the other? What was the two? They had the other ones, and then there was the Dead. Was that what it
I
was?
think it was just the Dead,
Dead.
yeah, because we
Yeah.
were we were in high school. We were looking at tickets to go in and see the Dead in
Yeah.
Austin, but it just wasn't feasible.
Yeah.
Not when had $7 to your name, so
Right.
just
Exactly.
wasn't really feasible.
Exactly. Oldies Radio brings up Joe Walsh's "Life's Been Good." That's one of those records that is also in that stack of records.
I love that song.
Yeah,
How
but
could you not?
that album again is just one that you can just sort of put on and just whatever. I also have Boz Scaggs' "Silk Degrees" in that
I
stack, but I think that's
I
from
almost
'76. That's '76.
Yeah, that
Okay.
that 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 and a Grand Funk album I pulled out. I was like, these are from '78, but I put them back. I was like, no, they're from '76. But yeah,
Yeah.
Silk Degrees is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's another one that, like, at this day and age, you can just sort of put on, and everybody enjoys it. But yeah, Joe Walsh's "Life's Been Good." I probably spent a good 25 minutes looking for that, and I was just like, we'll talk about it when we talk about it, and that's that. So,
There
uh,
we go.
give me your second one from February.
So these were both released on the same day, which was February the 10th. The other out, so you could walk in there theoretically and buy Little Feat, and then go a little bit harder and get "Stay in Class"
Okay,
by
Judas
Judas
Priest.
Priest.
Okay, yeah.
So this album is I guess infamous because those couple of kids who decided to off themselves did it because of a certain song on this.
Okay.
But
Suicide Solution, wasn't that the one it's called?
well, no,
No.
that's Ozzy. That was like
Oh,
better,
that's right.
better by you, better than
But
me was the song. And
okay.
if you play it backwards, you can hear Rob Halford say something like "Do it, do it, do it." And
Okay.
it was funny because watching, like, not fun. I don't mean haha, but just like interesting because their defense is like, "Do it, do what? Shoot yourself, get a sandwich, change the world, do what?" So that was basically the defense. And so
Yeah.
anyway, back to this. This is probably their best album. I'm going to go out on a limb, not much of one, and say you've never heard this, or this is probably not
So
in your wheelhouse.
I had a ton of, again, I think back to this huge collection that I bought in like 2000 or 2001, whatever, and that and Caressive, no, not Caressive Steel's a Rush album, right? What's the one
Yes.
with what's the one with the razor blade, something, British Steel. British Steel.
Yes.
British Steel, yes. And I think there was Live in Japan, I think, was on there too, which is the one that's like, or Live in Tokyo, I don't know what, where.
Unleashed in the East.
Okay, all right.
That's the
Thanks
one of
for
the best
correcting me.
live albums ever. So yes. So this is I love this record. Exciter, which I think Craig has already brought up. Yeah, how do you not love that drum intro? Les Banks is the greatest Judas Priest drummer. Am I right, Craig? Am I right? Like, how in the world did he get booted? But anyway, you've got that on here. You've got Beyond the Realms of Death, Heroes End. it's just a great record. This is, I think, their best album. I think they put out great records after this, but I never thought that they surpassed that. Um, so that's
One of the CDs that Oldies Radio got on Friday was that Judas Priest CD. That's awesome.
great,
So
great.
well, it's cool that you guys are enjoy them. I just
Yeah.
again they're just not my.
And
I don't
that's
know.
okay.
Yeah, I mean I had it's weird. There's a I think it's a Les and Jake song that's called, all my best friends are metalheads, and it's really funny how like I had a lot of friends that were like really into punk, but then at the same time they were, like where you had that Stormtroopers of Death record that we were talking about the other day, where it was like you have to listen to SOD, and like I'm like okay, and then like they're like Iron
Makes
Maiden,
everybody
you
happy.
you got to listen to Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind, like okay, yeah, all right, and again I those first maybe five
You
or
take my
six
life, but I'll take it too.
the first five or six Iron Maiden albums are just
Are
phenomenal.
perfect.
Yeah, they're
Are
just
perfect.
they're just great.
80 to
So
87, they did. I think we've talked about this before, but from their first one, Iron Maiden, the seventh son of a seventh son, they did no wrong. Those
yep.
are like, to me, that's the peak of heavy metal. That's the peak of, I mean, that is, those are just all perfect. There's not a dud on any of them.
Yeah. So
So,
it's interesting to see. So remind me again. So Judas Priest. This is probably what their fourth album. Is that what that is? Or
so this is, yeah, exactly. Because
okay.
they had their first album,
Rolla.
Rockarola,
Yeah. Which I need to get. Like
um,
I feel like that's sort of like I want to. I know that that's like a critically panned album. Like people say it's a terrible album, but like
it's
I
not
want to
good.
listen to it. Yeah.
Their sophomore album, Sad Wings of Destiny, is amazing. That and then you had Sin After Sin, and then that was fourth, and Hellbent for Leather was after that, and then you had the live album. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, Sad Wings of Destiny. If you're gonna get Rockarola, get Sad Wings of Destiny too. That's an amazing album. It's like their Sergeant Pepper's, and what I mean by that is it's kind of it's all over the place. It
Okay.
is like there's piano ballads on it. So it's really good. I dig it.
Very
So
cool. All right. So that's your last from
from February. Yep,
Okay.
that is it.
So Craig says, I think you might dig Rockarola and Sad Wings. Those might fit into your wheelhouse, Mark. I've been really listening to a lot of. Usually, like my cutoff point has been 1972. Like for just like it's sometimes hard to kind of get into like okay, hey, this is an album from I don't know. For me, there's definitely like a curve to the music that I listen to, and that's sort of like where that sort of starts to drop off a little bit. But I have been listening to more. A lot of these compilations of sort of just, introduce me to bands that like, oh, here's a song that they might have done that, and then you want to check out their later career, and then you kind of start listening to some of their later albums. So I have been really kind of stepping out of my. To be honest, I'm really kind of run out of stuff to listen to. Like it's just really like, there's such an excitement when you find out new music and you learn about new music, and like that period, like 1966 to 72, like there's not much coming out from that time frame that's just
When
like
we need that extra push over the edge, where
11,
do you go?
11. All right, so I have two from March. I've actually have a couple from March. I'm going to talk about ones that I didn't pull out, but I want to at least talk about.
All right.
So the Ruddles soundtrack. Do you have
Okay.
that? Have you ever
I
heard that
do.
before? Okay.
Never listened to it. Own it. Never listened to it.
Okay. So again, I think I just the only thing I wanted to kind of mention about that was okay. So by 1978, really it was sort of funny to make fun of the Beatles and just sort of look back on that. Even though it was only like 8 years prior, when they broke up, but it was like at that point it was sort of it was sort of funny to kind of again look at their career and say like okay this was a little sillier than they were trying to be so serious and whatever and now we can sort of laugh about it but guys from Monty Python were in the group
Sure.
and also uh the bands the Bonzo Dog Doodah band there was one guy from there so wanted to mention that came out in late March of 78 Jimmy Buffett's Son of a Sailor. So just in case you were wondering sort of where the Jimmy Buffett catalog was in 1978, that's where it was. So
And then Volcano followed that, didn't it?
that there was a live album that was later 78. You had to be
Was that
there.
you? That's a good live record. I had that on a couple of weeks ago. You laugh. I had that on a couple of weeks ago, and I was feeling myself. I cut the grass. It was a great day.
Yeah. So Cheeseburger in Paradise, just in case you were wondering when exactly that came out. It was March of 1978. Two albums from March of 78 that, oh my goodness. If you don't have anything from March of 78, this is kind of shocking to me, but
I have two, but
oh, you
I
do. You
bet
have
they're
two.
different.
Okay.
I
Okay.
bet they're different from what you pulled.
Okay.
So
All right. Are you sure?
yes,
Okay. Here's my first one.
I put that. I did not pick that because I know that's your favorite Elvis Costello album,
Yeah.
and I knew you were going to pick it. So I did not pull that out specifically because of that.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, not much that I haven't already said about this album, other than, again, this is just my favorite Elvis Costello album.
With good reason.
Yeah. My cousin sort of like was
I like
asking.
My Aim Is True that much more.
Okay.
That much more.
It's just a little. It's a little more. Just a little more raw, right? Just a little more. A little more. The
You
amps
know
are
what
just a little.
puts you know what puts that over the edge? Allison. That single puts it over that edge because I
Okay.
think that's one of the best songs ever written. But yes, I'll shut up. That's
No, that's
good choice.
that's all good. But yeah, I just like I said, my cousin sort of I asked him about a couple different bands. I was probably 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that. And this was one of the albums that he sort of put in my hand, and like I don't know. Like I just don't know what it was about it. This really kind of got me into sort of melodic pop or like pop punk. It really sort of was like kind of a primer for that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, every single song on here is I know the lyrics. I can sing along to the keyboards and everything like that.
On the upbeat.
Lip service,
Yeah, you
living in
go.
paradise, lipstick Vogue, radio. I mean, there's not
Isn't
a.
Living in Paradise the most hooky keyboard intro in the entire world? Right?
It just sounds like like a computer, like it could have been like Mario Brothers or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, so if you don't have this Elvis Costello album, I would highly suggest that you get it. Again,
Yeah.
probably one of my all-time favorite Elvis Costello albums,
It's good.
hands down. I would say that this is easily top 25 right here
Whoa.
of all time right here. So that's my
Right on. Okay.
um, and second one from March of 78. I know this is give a shout out to our buddy Chris. Oh, look at that. So, of all the albums that we could have picked from 1978, it's cool. Did you think I was going to show this one?
No,
You didn't. Okay.
that's why I grabbed it.
So
Because I was like, because I literally pulled that Elvis Costello record out and said, no, Mark is going to show this year's model. So I put it back and I said, he might show this, but I'm going to snag it on the off chance he doesn't. But
all right.
props to you, kind sir.
Yeah, these are the to quote a phrase, I love it when a plan comes together. We did not talk about anything about 1978.
We don't talk about anything prior to a show. We don't.
Yeah.
We even though I can't keep a surprise, so I try I try to tell Mark like, hey, did you put this rolling? So he's like, I gotta go.
let's not talk about that. So this Zappa, Craig says Jesus of Cool. Of course, in the U.S., it was the pure pop for the now people, which I think the cover art is just so great because it's just Nick Lowe in his career, he just really um, he really like exemplifies every single one of these pictures on the front, even the Riddler costume in the back, which I think this was supposed to be. Wasn't this like Dave Edmunds or something like that? Did this
Yeah,
on one
exactly,
of his albums or
exactly.
whatever? But yeah, it's a great. I mean, the track listing is a little bit different. The running order is a little bit different than the UK version. They did swap out a few songs on the UK version compared to the US version. But I think So It Goes again, just a phenomenal tune.
Mary Provost, that hungry little dachshund.
Yeah, I mean the whole side one is fantastic. I love the sound of breaking glass. Roller show, even that just
Yeah,
it just kind of gives you that sort of talking about the Bay City Rollers, kind of, tongue in cheek kind of thing.
Yeah.
I saw Nick Lowe, one of the last concerts that I saw before COVID.
Oh,
Esther Rose opened up for
how was
him.
that?
It was good. It was
Yeah.
him and
Was it low straight
Low
jackets?
Straight Jackets. Yeah, so it was really.
Ooh.
So he like came out, he did a couple songs, and then Low Straight Jackets did like a set for maybe a half an hour or something like that, and then he came back and he changed his shirts, and then he did like all of the the Nick Lowe greatest hits, Cruel to Be Kind and all that kind of stuff. But um, yeah, he's somebody that like, I mean he he tried so hard to like fit in. I feel like to the like he tried so many different things with like Rockpile, and he did stuff with Brinsley Schwarz, and of course his solo career. And it's just like the people that got him, like they got him. They were like, "This is great.
Right.
Whatever you put out, I'm gonna listen to." But um, I just feel like he's overlooked by a lot of folks because they're just like they just don't. I don't know. They just, and again, Cruel to Be Kind was I mean, that was a monster, like an absolute monster hit. But,
Rightfully so.
but
That's the perfect power pop song.
exactly. But like that's kind of like, again, like some people with Warren Zevon, like Werewolves of London might be the only thing that you know about that, right? Which again, Nicolo's kind of the same way. Like it's a great, awesome song, but there are songs that maybe a touch better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, horribly overlooked. Let me just see
Agreed.
what else we got here. I'm sorry. Cruel to Be Kind. You got the 45 of. Yep. So yep. Oldies Radio. See if you can find it. It'll come around.
Yeah.
One thing I love about records is just Oldies Radio. Just look at this for a second. Just like just manifest it, and it'll show up. I've done that a lot of times. If you just think about a record, it'll show up. Just manifest it. That's not okay. You good? You got it? Okay. Just manifest it. It'll show up. Uh, Definitely get this one. I mean, all of his stuff is good too. It's his like straight up country records that he wrote, and like
Yeah.
he's like Elvis Costello too, where he's like they
He's
both.
all over the
Yeah,
place.
they
Yeah.
try to change, like, oh, here's an album that I did that's just all country ballads. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, yeah. So Oldies Radio is pointing my eyes, then pointing at the screen. There you go. That's the way to do it.
There.
Manifest
Will
it.
it?
um, so that's all I got for March of
Okay.
'78.
Well, you know that I couldn't go an episode without talking about Frank
Zappa. Okay,
Zappa
there you go.
in New York. Are you familiar with
Yep.
this?
Yep. Exactly.
You like it?
Well, so what he had, I think he had two albums in '78. He did Studio Tan, right? Wasn't that the other one he did in '78? Which you may be showing
Yes,
in a little bit.
I might. There's a very strong possibility.
So talk to me about that one, Steve.
So this is I can't remember if this is the first Zappa I got on vinyl. This is not the first Zappa I got, period. But I think this may have been the first Zappa I got on vinyl. And boy, it is hit or miss
That's an interesting first Zappa album. That yeah.
on vinyl, not
Okay.
in this
No. Okay,
catalog.
I
But
got you. Okay.
yeah, yeah. The first Zappa I ever got was strictly commercial, followed by
Strictly commercial.
We're Only in It for the Money, because I couldn't pass up a song called Hot Poop.
Right.
And I can't pass up a song called this is a family friendly show, but it's got some very provocative, thought provoking song titles. But yes, it's great. I enjoy it. Well, the stuff I enjoy on it, I like a lot. I think that the Black Pages, like, I get it. Terry Bozzio is a great drummer. It just kind of, but it's the '70s. You got to have like a half-hour drum solo.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I think it just gets a little bit long on it. But the Purple Lagoon's really great. The first side's funny. So, and Dweezil took the cover photo from an airplane. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, really? Okay, that's an interesting little tidbit there.
So that's what I have for March. I have one for April. I don't know if you have any for April.
So I'll talk about a few. Let's see. Yeah, I have two for April. Bullets. I actually had written down about five. So we'll just maybe briefly talk about a couple. So
we'll have an extended episode tonight because we
right.
haven't done it in a couple weeks. So
so April 7th, the Last Waltz soundtrack comes out.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
so again, that was 76 shows, but 78's when that actually came out. Um, Also to Joe Walsh, but seriously, folks came out. Looks, I don't know if that was in the middle, April 16th. Uh, and then also David Gilmour's first solo album was
Oh,
78.
I should have grabbed that. Okay.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I couldn't locate my copy, but there's no way out of here. Once you're in for good.
One down. Wow. That's a great opening riff.
I do feel it's a little, in a way, it's a great album.
Side one is really loaded with all the good stuff, and side two you can kind of
Yeah,
not listen to.
it doesn't, it may not do anything for you, but I think that's a great album worth picking up. I think out of all of the, I'm not necessarily going out on a limb here as maybe just making a truthful statement. That's probably the only Pink Floyd member solo album that I think is maybe essential,
I would agree.
or again, that maybe would pique your curiosity.
I enjoy Pros and Cons, but I don't of hitchhiking, but I don't think that's essential. Radio Chaos, I don't think that's essential. So
Yeah, but I believe, and again, those songs like No Way Out of Here, um, that
the
one,
opening one, that instrumental is really good too.
yeah, that gets played on the radio here. So
Really?
yeah, you need actually, if you can maybe, we'll talk offline about something, but I'll give you a little bit of a wink.
All right.
And we'll talk about something offline. But yeah, that definitely gets played on the radio quite a bit. So Gilmour's solo album was a great album. Not one to put in the car full of people. Yeah,
Probably not.
yeah, not necessarily enjoy it. But so let me show. I got two. I got two other ones. If you don't have anything else to say about any of those three albums from April. Um, this one, and you probably knew I was going to show this one, so I don't know if you
Cats up under the stars.
got the Jerry's Record stickers on there.
Very
Um,
cool.
this is a fantastic one. I think
Yep.
out of all the Jerry albums, I think this one definitely sort of speaks to me the most. Even like a tune like Palm Sunday, I think is, I try to make a point to listen to that, on Palm Sunday, just because it's like, just to really sort of feel um, what he's saying. But Cats Under the Stars, of
Yeah.
course, Rhapsody in Red's good, Ruben and Charisse, Love in the Afternoon. I mean, it's a great album. This is a great Jerry Garcia band album.
Ruben and Charisse may be my favorite solo Jerry song.
Okay, yeah. So especially like his later albums were, I would say that there might be like, one or two really good songs that sort of made it into the Dead repertoire. There's really nothing on this that was ever played as the Grateful Dead. It was all, it was everything that was on here was just Jerry Garcia band stuff. So,
Okay.
in a way, sometimes that's kind of interesting because sometimes they do, you know what I mean? Sometimes those things seep over and, that they get played. But yeah, this one is one that didn't. But John Conn's on here, so of course from our, John played with Skip, never with Al. So yeah, John Conn pretty much played bass with him the whole way through. But yeah, that's a really fabulous one. Any thoughts on this? Any other?
Love it. It's Ruben and Cerise is probably my favorite. And that's definitely that, or there's a bunch of stuff I love off of Run for the Roses.
Right.
But yeah, Cats is the one I go to and I'm like, yeah, let me listen to this, something by Jerry.
I feel like it is something that it's pretty much the most accessible Jerry record. I mean,
I would agree.
His first self-titled one, just Garcia one, is pretty good too. But I think this one might be even a little bit more that you could probably just play, and it's not like, not the experimental stuff before the wheel and stuff like that. Like people could jump on a little bit more. My next pick that I'm going to show. Did you say you had any for April, or you didn't have any for April?
I do. I've got one.
Go ahead and show yours. Go ahead and show yours for April.
Just real quick, I've talked about this band before. Cheap Trick, Heaven and Night.
There you go.
So this
again,
is
another record that you would see all the time. Yeah, exactly.
This is their third record. This is not my favorite of the first three. I think I like In Color or the first one. I go back and forth. Maybe the first one's my favorite. Maybe In Color's my favorite. Maybe this one's my favorite. I don't know. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to take a hot take. The first three Cheap Trick records are the best first three albums of any band.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents cashed in. But this is, of course, it's got Surrender on it. Alfreda Sane has been in there. And then that's such a great song. You talk about great pop songs. I mean, you can't get better with that. Stiff Competition, which is one of my favorite tunes by them. On Top of the World is one of my favorites by them again. But yeah, this is just such a great record. Just through and through, it's probably the strongest of their first three, and maybe the strongest in their entire catalog. But I love Heaven and Night. If you don't have that record, I would highly suggest seeking it out and loving it as much as I do.
Oldies Radio says, "What about Billy Joe working hard? We'll give you a heart attack." So, Stranger was 77. 52nd Street was 78. You're correct.
Yeah, and I almost grabbed 52nd Street, but it's when it comes to Billy Joel, I'm a Glass House guy, and that's pretty much where it begins and ends for me.
This one, I would probably say if you had to guess any of the records that I was pulling out tonight, that this is one that
it can't be Shakedown Street. Is it Shakedown Street?
Well, did it come out in April? I thought Shakedown Street was in November.
Oh, is it Bob Dylan?
No.
Is it Street Legal?
Willie Nelson's Stardust.
Oh.
Are you familiar with this? Look at this. Got my half price book sticker on it for $4. This is probably $30 now.
Yes. Is it really? It's gone up that much?
I don't know. I'm sure it's. So do you know anything about this album?
I have listened to that a few times. I am a bigger Faces and Stages fan, believe it or not. That's my go-to Willie.
So I think that this is sort of the this is not Outlaw Willie. I think this is probably the first album that's not that sort of, the redheaded stranger sort of thing. But of course the title track Stardust, Georgia on My Mind, Blue Skies, nothing but blue skies. Such a fantastic tune. Unchained Melodies on here as well too. On the Sunny Side of the Street. But so it's produced by Booker T. Jones. So of course Booker T. and the MGs, right? So he produced the album.
Can you dig it, sucker?
And did a lot of the
different guy.
Yeah, it's a different. What did he just say?
I'm just kidding. Let me clarify. I'm just kidding.
He did not just
tell me he didn't just say that.
Chris Etheridge plays bass on it. Of course, he was with the Flying Burrito Brothers. So
very cool.
But yeah, wanted to mention that. Zappa says Craig says solid Willie album, had to approachiously different since it's not Outlaw. So
I agree.
Yep.
The first Prince album, I am not a big. I'm a big Prince fan, but I'm not a big fan of that first album. I think that that first Prince album is. I admire it because he played everything on it, but doesn't do it for me.
All right, so show me your pick.
We're jumping into May.
Oh, we're jumping into May. Okay.
I don't have any more April. Do you have any more April?
That was my last April.
I have one for May. Do you have any for May?
No for May.
I'm going to show you the best album by this band, and it is AC/DC's Power Rage.
Okay, there you go.
Are you familiar with this?
I'm familiar with it, of course.
Do you love it?
Talk to me about it, Steve. Let's hear what you got to say.
This is just... it's their best album, right? It's definitely their best album with Bon Scott. I think so. I think it's better than Highway to Hell. I do.
Yeah, I think it's they figured out their formula, and it's not, it doesn't seem like it's just like, hey, let's just do this, whatever, the three chords and chorus vocal, chorus, verse thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Rock and Roll Damnation, Down Payment Blues, which is one of my favorite AC/DC songs. Sin City kicks off side 2, which is my favorite AC/DC song. What's Next to the Moon? This is just Gone Shooting. This is just this is just great, man. This is just they have figured out the production. This is one of the best sonically sounding records that I have in my collection. Like it is just absolutely just
Yeah.
everything about it is loud, but it's contained to
It
where it's
it's
not beating
dialed
you
in.
over the head.
Yeah, it's dialed
Yes,
in. They sort of, like you said, like they know that they know, okay, let's go in and it's going to sound like this. And yeah,
right.
it's as much as it could be polished for AC/DC, that's where it is.
Yeah.
They figured it out. So yeah, great pick.
So, but I love that record. That is my favorite. The Bon Scott era ACDC album.
Okay.
So
Um, any for June as we move into June?
I have one for June. I don't have it. I have it, but I could not locate it. It's the Cars record,
Okay,
their first album.
talk to me about that.
Just absolutely stellar. There's it kind of tails off at the end a little bit there, a little bit,
Hmm.
but I think stuff like Bye Bye Love and just what I needed. Although they're played to death on the radio, I still think that that's a great record. And I know a lot of people like Candy O. I'm not a big fan of that record. The Cars are kind of just a one album band for me, and what an album it is. And I know that Moving in Stereo. From Fast Times at Ridgemont High, kind of, if you're from a certain age, that kind of brings up certain images from that movie. So, but yeah, I mean, they're like I said, they're a one album band for me, but what a one album it is.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Very cool.
what you got?
Oldies Radio brought up a couple other ones that. Well, I don't know. I'm just going to mention these here, and then if we happen to bring it, I didn't bring any of those ones, but the Dire Straits. Also,
Yeah,
Tom Petty, you're gonna get it.
that's a great record. You're gonna get it. That's a fantastic album.
Yeah. Those are ones that I didn't pull out, but yeah, I think are definitely worth noting. So my June, I got two from June.
Okay.
So I got, we talked a little bit about this on the last show. Half price book sticker, by the way, $8 for this. So I got the deleted faces on there as well too. But Some Girls, right? So, we sort of talk about that this is, 1978. So again, we're sort of getting into that kind of patchy era for the Stones, but it's still a great album. I think there's still, it's still one of the, I'd say one of their better ones, especially in that era, the late 70s. Kind of beginning to end. This was right before that period, like you said, where before they kind of became a singles band, or hey, here's
Yeah.
the new Stones classic. So,
Yeah.
any thoughts on Some Girls?
Like I said last episode, "Let It Bleed" is my favorite Stones record. That's my favorite. That's my second or third favorite. Goat Head Soup, Some Girls, and "Let It Bleed" would kind of round out that top three. But when I think I want to hear some Stones, that's usually the one I pull out. I again, going back to last episode, I think I made my love for "Before They Make Me Run" pretty well known. But
Yeah.
yeah, "Far Away Eyes" is great on that. There's not a dud on that at
Shattered.
all.
Shattered. You're wrong.
Okay. Yeah. You know what?
That's
Yeah.
it.
No.
That's the one. That's the one.
I'll agree.
That's
I'll
the
agree.
one.
But it's at the end of the record, so
Yeah, exactly.
you can just
say
end it after
it was
Beast
like
of Burden.
it was a hidden track. It was they tacked it on just to be silly.
Bedbugs Uptown. Woo.
So yeah, but Some Girls. And then I know we've talked about this too a little bit. We've talked about this album and Bob Dylan
Yeah.
Street Legal. You probably know
Another
I was going
one.
to bring that, right?
Another one that I came close to grabbing, but I knew that you would, so I did not.
So I don't think there's a bad this to me that trilogy of Blood on the Tracks, Desire, and this one. That's just sort of that the period. I feel like the Blood on the Tracks is sort of that falling in love album. Desire is sort of the breakup album, and then this is sort of like that, like I'm on to my next thing, uh, kind of record. But we need to talk this over once we get sober. Man, I have been in some I have lived that song a time or two. So, but of course, Senor. I don't know if you've ever
Tales of Yankee Power.
have
Yeah,
you
of
ever heard the
course.
Willie Nelson version of that? Have you ever heard
No,
that?
I didn't
Okay.
know that. I didn't know there was one.
So there's a movie called Mask and Anonymous, and I think I've mentioned this to you before once or twice, but it's a movie that Bob Dylan did late, maybe maybe 2002, 2003, something like that. And really when he was sort of in that Cowboy Bob, like when he sort of just started kind of that thing. There's so many famous people in that movie. John Goodman's in it. Jeff Bridges is in it. I can't think of Val Kilmer's in it, where he's sort of like playing the Jim Morrison sort of thing. But the soundtrack is all, of course, Bob Dylan tunes, and there's a Willie Nelson version of Senor, which is fantastic. But yeah, really good. I love this album. I think it's
Right on.
one of my top Bob Dylan albums for sure.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. All right.
any other thoughts on that other than it's awesome?
You said it all, sir.
All right. That's all I got for June. Now I do have
I have.
I do have some other albums. Like, let me see real quick here. I have there may be an album or two. I've one album where I'm not sure exactly what the date is, or I think we might have missed it. But yeah, we'll talk about it at the end. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't remember what exactly the date was on it.
I have one for July. You have anything for July?
No, I have nothing until September. So
I have the
very good.
second. So oldies radio, I believe, or was that?
Yeah, well,
I
Oldies
think it
Radio,
was oldies.
mentioned that. Yep.
So yes. Your thoughts on this? Do you love it as much as I do?
So Sam is a really big Talking Heads fan. I am as well too, to a point of
But okay, I was gonna
yeah,
say.
like I don't they're like her records and my records are separate, so that's with like her records, so I don't like I'm not
Don't
putting
intermingle your
we don't
stuff with
intermingle
my
the
awesome
collection.
stuff.
We don't intermingle the collection. So but yeah, so Craig said it was me. Yeah, so I mean
Okay, and Craig. Okay, sorry,
she's
Craig.
a little bit of a bigger fan than I am. Craig, I feel like didn't we do something about the Talking Heads? We did something on Facebook where we did um didn't we do like the 10 best songs or something? Craig, what was that? No, I'm just remembering this in my head, but I can't remember what we did. Didn't we do something on Facebook that was
Rick
like,
says that album is a 10 for me. Wow.
okay, didn't know that ranked up there. Would you put it in like your top 25?
I think he means like top 10, like top 10 or like
Okay.
top.
Is a 10. That album is a 10 for me. As in
Like,
like
is it 10, like a top 10 or like would make my, like,
out of like a 10 out of 10 stars. What did we talk about, Craig? Was it just we were doing like
I didn't know that about Dave. That's cool. All right, right
what
on.
happened?
Oldies Radio says,
Oh, the person on
I
the
just,
spectrum.
yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
There you go.
Well, very
Um,
cool.
so did we just do
What
like
did you guys do? Like a top 10, like your favorite
did we
Talking
do
Head
like a
songs?
brackets? Did we do brackets? I gotta look back in my Facebook because I remember you and I were going back and forth about it. Yeah, I mean,
Easy top 25. It's 10 out of 10. Same with Fear and Music. Okay. No love for their first record. That's one I tend to kind of go back to.
Psycho Killer.
Yeah, how do you not like that? And that version they have from the old Grey Whistle test.
Yeah,
Have you seen that?
of course. That's what they
Say
should have.
something. What? Oh my goodness, that's so good. It's very good. It's
It's
very good.
yeah, yeah. I can't remember either, Craig. There's water at the bottom of the ocean. um, yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, I listen. I will listen to them. I will listen to them, but they're not necessarily a band that I go and like Sam really got into them, and I was looking for like Tom Tom Club records and like what I mean,
Yeah.
just kind of like filling in all the holes and stuff like that. But yeah, that's again those records are with her records, so we don't necessarily. She has one song that she just absolutely loves. It was like her ringtone for a really long time. It was like her alarm, and she would wake up to that. I'll have to ask her what it is, but yeah, it was funny.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great, again, another band that not necessarily they were there in '77, but you know, by '78, I feel like they hit their stride, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay. Do you have anything from? I don't have anything until September.
Okay, September is the next that I have, so I'll
Okay.
go ahead and show that. I think we've mentioned this album before. Tom Waits, Blue Valentine.
Yeah. There
So
you go.
I am definitely a I'm a fan of West Side Story, so his version of Somewhere is pretty great. It's hard to believe that like so 78, like this is when, soon after, we start having like swordfish trombones and like this was sort of like kind of like the last kind of
Swordfish and Trombones is his best record.
sort of this is sort of like his last kind of, normal album before he really started veering into that latter part of his career. But
The Baroque period.
the Baroque Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis is a fantastic tune.
Yep.
This again, it's another album that's I feel like is essential. $10 for this. Whenever I got this, I think I got this in 2014.
Yeah, you
Uh,
won't find that for under $25 anywhere
yeah. So
nowadays. Back in my day.
Wesley Beck says Blood on the Tracks was Dylan's divorce record. Street Legal is an amazing record, kind of ahead of his time, sounding like an '80s album in many ways. Yeah, I agree. I think that
Blood on the Tracks is a difficult record to listen to. That album found me at the right time or wrong time, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, that's that is an album that that is really Dylan opened himself up like
yeah,
I don't think he ever has before or since. That is and the outtakes of that record is really great too. Up to Me is why that never made an album. It blows me away. I guess it did the box set eventually, but
yeah,
why Up to Me wasn't issued on an album,
yeah.
I'll never understand.
But I know that you said he puts in there that it's his divorce album, but to me it's sort of like at the same time there are those points of like sort of the you think about Tangled Up in Blue. I feel like that's a love song, right? You know what I mean? Like just his sort of journey
Yeah.
about and again I think that's that album sort of again there's those moments of sort of where Bob is professing his like, yes, I've been in love and I've been hurt. Of course, you have songs like Idiot Win, right? Like blowing through the flowers of your
Oh,
tomb. I mean
right.
that's a pretty saying that about somebody, like
Well, yeah, you could argue that, and you could argue, like if you see or say hello is kind of like
right,
that lament for like your lost love or whatnot. But
yeah,
you know, I definitely think I probably would agree that's probably more of a divorce record. But now that I'm like
yeah,
listening to you explain it a little bit, and like
yeah,
if you see or say hello, like I don't think that's kind of a, I don't think there's any sarcasm. I think that's a genuine,
yeah.
kind of heartfelt, wondering about you know,
Meet Me in the Morning. That's
yeah.
again, that's a great
You're a
tune.
big girl now. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a fantastic album. I mean, it is. It's a very emotional. It's a very raw album.
yeah.
It
But
really
but
is.
I've always felt it like again like that's sort of the that's the vulnerable portion of the relationship, and then Desire is sort of like that like I'm gone, like I'm just like sort of like when you sort of break up with somebody and then you sort of come to
I'm
the
wearing face
realization
makeup and a cowboy hat and a
you're just like
scarf.
I'm gonna just do whatever I want to do and just have again I'm gonna have a fantastic time. And then Street Legal is again, like I said, that's sort of like the wrap up where there's a lot of like the self realization of, yeah, I might have screwed up, right? But Desire, that's not in that album at all. Desire, but Desire has like Hurricane and Joey, so it's a little more topical than
Yeah,
it just being
Mozambique.
Moses,
Yeah,
yeah, right. But like songs like Sarah, you know what I mean? Like again, that's
Joey.
well, right, yeah, it's
Ugh.
it's I mean, I don't know. I've listened to that album a lot. So
Yeah.
I think that's, again, that's like a top Dylan album for me. But yeah, again, we can talk about that when we have like 4 hours to talk about Bob Dylan. We'll do that. Um, Leslie says, agree with you guys. I think it's Dylan's top 10 albums, my
Yeah.
favorite artist of all time. So that says a lot for me.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Would where would you put that? Like that would probably be.
that's my number one Dylan album, and I'll
Is
say
it
that
really?
Desire isn't my number one Dylan album. Yep.
Okay, see, I would put Blood on the Tracks at two. Like I said a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whenever we talked about it, I would put John Wesley Harding at number one. Blood on the Tracks would be two. When that was kind of where I would put those records. So
I mean, for me, it's more like I've mentioned this on previous shows too, where it's like I've there's been times I've listened to Bob Dylan, but I don't feel like I've ever got like I don't get Bob Dylan unless it's like I am sort of going through some sort of emotional stuff, right? Like there's like again, so like I would say, I would say number one for me is Desire. Number two is the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Surprise, you didn't guess that one. But um, those are always top two. But again, Freewheelin' Bob Dylan was my introduction to Bob Dylan, so I had that on a cassette tape, and I just
Then it
in the car. I
and
just would listen to that, and you know that kind of sets you on a certain path. Other than like listening to his first album, or I feel like the Freewheeling's a really good entry point for him. But yeah, and then those other ones, like I'd have to really think about my number three. But those two I could
Empire
say,
Burlesque.
yeah, that's a solid 2.5. Yeah, but yeah, I don't think we talked about that. That the most recent bootleg that came out, that sometime in New York one, is actually really good. Have you
Yeah,
streamed that a little bit? I think I
yeah, a
need
little bit.
that reminds me. I need to probably pull that out again and take a listen to it. So Wesley says for me, Blood on the Tracks would be number five, just behind Bringing It Back Home, Highway 61, Blonde on Blonde, and Freewheeling. There you go.
Yeah, Blonde on Blonde would be number three for me. I think pretty easily. Obsession by UFO. There's old radio going on with that. Yeah,
1978.
yeah. Getting us back on track. But
Yeah,
yeah,
gets back on the nice.
that's
Sorry about that.
yeah.
Um,
I pulled out Strangers in the Night, but then I was like, that's 79. That's a great live record. So
so do you have you had one from September? You said.
I do.
Okay.
I have one for September. You mentioned it earlier. Surprise, surprise. Studio
Studio
Tan
Tan.
by Zappa.
Yeah.
So
Speaking
yeah,
of which, Craig Zappa 21786 says, "Gotta hit the hay." So, Craig, sports
all
truly.
right.
We'll see you
Sports
next
truly.
time.
Good night, kind sir. Yeah, this is. I mean, it was compiled by his record label. It's. I think Gregory Peccary kind of starts off is kind of like being a, I don't know, like a sequel to Billy of the Mountain, but it just kind of stinks. But Let Me Take You to the Beach is fun. Whenever we go to the beach, I play this song much to everybody in the car's chagrin. Exactly. So people are that is, you want to clear a room, put on some Zappa, and then the people who are left standing there are the people you want to hang out with. So
Right. Right.
just and I would be remiss, Mark, if I didn't bring up September 24th.
Ooh, all four of them, Steven?
All four of them. I am a fan of all four of them. Yes, that includes Peter Chris's. I am a
Did I
fan of
did I
all
make
four
any
of the
digs about
Kiss.
that earlier? I was gonna say, did you bring all four? Okay, I was thinking about that. So
No, they're all upstairs. I wasn't gonna lug them down because I would be like, this is the third best Ace Frehley song on this album. But no, I enjoy, and I realize I'm a fan, and
just a little
that
bit.
kind of just a hair. I don't know if anybody's gathered that, but yes, I enjoy all four of the Kiss solo albums, and I did not mention 1978 was probably peak Kiss. You had the trading cards and everything else that came out, and Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, which is Oscar worthy for all the right reasons. And in April they had Double Platinum, their
Right.
greatest hits, which was my introduction to them. So that's pretty wild that you think about that. You have a greatest hits and four new solo records by the same band that was just coming off of a
Dynasty.
live album. No, this is all before Dynasty, right before Dynasty.
Okay.
So
Oh, Dynasty
you had
79?
79.
Okay, I always thought that was 77 for some reason. Okay.
79. So I mean, you have Love Gun, then you have Alive 2, and then you have the New Year, and then boom, right comes in Double Platinum in April, and then September you have four solo records. So yeah, Kiss was everywhere then, and so right, wrong, or indifferent, I enjoy those albums, and I say that with all sincerity. Are they for everybody? No, but again, they hold a special place in my heart. Mark, take it away with your picks.
Oh, I was gonna say I did send you that message that Ace Frehley is playing at Jurgles. I think this weekend, right? Did I
I
see
saw
that?
that. I
So
saw that.
yeah, so that's an interesting sort of venue. It's sort of not necessarily the casino circuit, but it's like Lit. The band Lit is playing there,
Okay.
and Tom what's his name from the Grateful Dead, Constantin, right? Tom McKinstry.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
played there maybe before COVID and stuff like that. So
Okay.
it's kind of that sort of venue where it's like, tickets are always $50 because they only put maybe 450 people in there total. You know what I mean? It's kind of a bar first and then a venue second. So yeah. So moving to October of um, of 78. Honorable mention there. I wanted to talk about music for films. Brian Eno, are you a fan of that one?
Okay.
So that was
I
yeah.
know nothing of that record.
So there's also I believe he also put out the ambient one or whatever it is that came out I think in early 78, but this one came out in later 78. I'm more a fan of that one. It's kind of, again, where originally came out where it was just like he just pressed up like a handful of copies and sort of gave it to people and were like, hey, I want to do music for films, so here's the album and you can listen to some of the songs that I did. And then it of course was released later on. So yeah, that's a fun one if you ever get a chance to to do that. Brian Eno music for films is
Okay.
interesting. um October, also in October, um I know we don't really talk about this band too much, but
Oh, there you go.
Aerosmith live bootleg. I know we did our bootleg episode and we sort of talked about, here's a band now that is, they're sort of taking that, the cheapness, if you will, Frank Zappa kind of nod there, and then they put it in this. And this is sort of greatest hits live up until that point. So really, by '78, they were kind of getting to the end of the peak Aerosmith road. But I think this is a great thing of just if you want to get all those to Back in the Saddle, Sweet Emotion, Toys in the Attic, Last Child, Come Together, Walk This Way, Mamakin, of course Train Kept It Rolling. This
Yeah.
is just a
Mother.
great album. So
Yeah. I mean, it's raw. I mean, it's a raw live record, which is really great. There's no polish at all to it, so that's part of its gritty charm.
yeah, like it just feels like it's they're kind of cash in on saying, hey, we're gonna put a live album out and let's make it be like it it's something else. But yeah, it's really good. One of my favorites from them. Oldies Radio said he did see the Neil Young buying the bootlegs.
Yeah, we mentioned that
Well,
a
I'll be
while back.
taking these.
That's yeah, that's so great. He's got that poor clerk. He's calling his boss. It's probably 9 at night. It's a
Yeah.
stormy night, and he's calling his boss about Neil Young's in the store. He's taking all your stuff. What?
Get here down here now.
No, I'm serious. He's right here.
Yeah. And I got two more. So if we move to November, if you got anything.
Uh, I got one more from October.
All right, let's see it. Oh, okay. There you go. There you go.
So,
Yeah.
Are We Not Men? We Are Devo, their first record. Are you a Devo fan, Mark?
Again, I'll listen to them if I can, but they're not definitely one that I don't have many records, if any, of theirs. You know what I mean? So talk to me about it.
No. It's Devo, man. It's their first record. It's great. Uh, I can't imagine for that time period it being anything different than what was in vogue at the time. They've always been a band that is kind of set on their own path and done their own thing, and I think that's just their cover of Satisfaction is I think great. I really do. I love their cover of Satisfaction. It's kind of here, there, and everywhere. They're all over the place. There's lots of weird things going on with that record, but I think if maybe Captain Beefheart was from Akron, he would probably be in Devo. So
Yeah, and I think they're again it says something about sort of 1978, how these bands that sort of had the maybe a punk ethos, but were a little bit more sort of on the mainstream, trying to put out a pop record or something like that. So yeah, there's a lot of weird albums in '78. Like I feel like it's you can really sort of look at that kind of that year and say like, okay, there was some strange things going on with music. So yeah, I mean we've had a pretty we've had a pretty interesting list to say the least. Between the albums that we've chosen. So,
Well,
um,
I've got four more. They're all in November, but they'll be quick.
okay. So I'll show my last one from November, and then I have that one just to wrap up. So, uh, Grateful Dead, Shakedown Street. So we talked about Lowell George there at the beginning. He produced this one. Um, this is just a fun record. I mean, the tune France on here, I feel is probably the only one that's kind of
Way down in the south
just
of
the one. Yeah,
France.
it's kind of a dud, but you got Fire on the Mountain, I Need a Miracle, the new Minglewood Blues, and even too, If I Had the World to Give. I mean, it's pretty cool. As you can see, Stephen, in about 2003, you can see the
That
price,
$3.99.
the 395 for this record. But yeah, things have changed a little bit. So yeah.
Show the back of it. Show the back of it. That's the disco guy. That's one of my
So
favorite logos.
here's
I wish they did more with that.
here's a funny story. I had I went to TJ Maxx. This was years ago. And like those bowling shirts, like I know you have a
Yeah,
couple, like that are just sort of like
I
that
still wear
nylon material. Uh,
them.
I had one that was Shakedown Street. I got it. It
Really?
was like maybe like $5 there, and I sold it at a yard sale. And I'm sure now it's probably, if you could find one on eBay, they're probably hundreds of dollars or whatever. But yeah, just a cool cover. Again, Grateful Dead were just kind of weird with some of their like none of
The
the albums
merchant.
sort of none of the covers sort of look the same. But the earlier ones tend to, but this is just definitely one that's like just weird.
I was thinking about this. They've never really had an iconic cover, have they?
I mean, not. I mean, Terrapin Station, I feel is. I mean, that's
It's probably the closest they ever got,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then of course, the Bears Choice one. Of course, there was some of the imagery from that. I mean, Skeletons from the Closet, I think is just that the skeleton spinning the gold record on his middle finger. I think that's kind of has its place. But yeah, you're right. Not really. So they're all kind of weird, and they don't.
Yeah.
If you put them all together, I mean, they make sense to a Grateful Dead fan, but somebody would just be like, "What the heck am I looking at here?" So, all right, Steve, take it away. Give me your last picks from
All
November.
right. So these next three were all released on the same day, November the 2nd. Blondie's Parallel Lines.
Okay.
Hands down, my favorite Blondie record. Somebody mentioned that earlier.
Yep.
This is an album that this album plays like a wrestling promo.
Okay.
It's Lou Reed's "Take No Prisoners." The banter back and forth between him and the audience is great. Like, yes, the music is fantastic.
So
Don't get me wrong.
Street Hassle came out in '78, right? Yep. And then this
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, I think early '78. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, this is like, you've got like, let's just look at the second record, side 3, Walk on the Wild Side and Leave Me Alone. That's it. Then you flip it over and you got side 4. You've got Coney Island Baby, and it closes with Street Hassle. So you've got an album. The second record has only got 4 songs on it. Are they extended jams? Yes. However, there is banter back and forth between him and the audience, and
I have
some
to check
of
that one
the
out. That's one.
oh.
I never see it on vinyl. So
yeah, it's a headphones records if you have sensitive ears, sensitive listeners around, because it is every other. It's like an episode of The Sopranos. Every other word is something. So, but it's great. I mean, it's great for what it is. Yeah, the band is tight as always, but Lou just like doesn't give a hoot about making anybody in the audience angry. It's very punk in that sense. Like, it's very Johnny Rotten-ish, I guess. It's just kind of antagonizing the audience. Maybe that what he was going for, but it is very it's very interesting. The last record released on the second was the first Police record,
Okay.
and this is an album that I've had. This was one of the earlier records I got, and one of the albums that I knew nothing about this band. I knew nothing about the Police outside of a couple of radio songs, but I bought this. It's one of among like the first 10 records I got, and just played this and played this and played this and played this and played this. I really, really love this record. I don't think there's a bad song on it. I know you're probably not the world's biggest Police fan, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, I have some of their records, but I just don't. I mean, again, Andy Summers played with Eric Burden and some of those later. Well, I think on the one Love Is on that
Love
Love
is,
Is
yeah.
album. But yeah, I mean, again, that's another band that sort of has moved up. They've ticked up in those boxes, like Police records you just don't see. Like they don't. I
Yeah.
mean, you used to see them all the time. What is it? I'm gonna butcher it. It starts with a Z. That one.
Zentata Mandata or
Yeah,
whatnot.
you
So
saw that one all the time. Synchronicity you saw all the time. And you just don't see those anymore. So
yeah.
uh,
And the very, very, very last one I'm going to talk about.
all right.
This is an album that gets panned, and rightfully so. Although I'd be lying if I say I didn't like All I Want Is You. But it's a decent, and the title cut is I'll admit to liking that. Mark, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Love Beach. I
uh,
like the title cut. I like the first song, All I Want Is You. Yeah, they're pop, they're garbage,
I
but
love how they're
you
all
know.
smiling. Like that's just like
Well,
uh,
this is 1978 in a nutshell, isn't it? Look at
right,
this
right.
with open shirt, gold chains, hairy chest. He's wearing white like that screams 1978. So
the,
no way
the
I was going to
sunset,
leave that
the
off.
sunset. Yeah.
Exactly. If you like pina coladas, which I realize is 79, but that's that is 1978 in a nutshell. Open shirt, hairy chest, and gold chains.
So I have on that thought, I have something that's completely. My last one is completely in the
I,
completely
I,
in the
I
opposite
was going to
direction of
say
that. Right. This
this
is
is a great transition.
this
Let's
is
see.
this cannot be any more in the opposite direction of that. So I
Can
will
I
go ahead.
can I guess?
Go
Can I
ahead.
guess what it is?
Go ahead. Give it to me.
Never mind the bollocks.
No, that's 77.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other guesses?
No.
So a little bit about this album. I was working.
James Taylor, JT.
No. I was. This was probably 2005, 2006, something like that.
The Germs. All right, I'm done.
No, working at the record store, there was a guy that his name was Andy, and so at the time the record store was just pretty much CDs and DVDs, um, and then we had a few boxes of records that were in just kind of pushed off to the side. Probably I would say if I had to guess maybe like 300 records,
Oh
and
wow.
they were three three for $5. Any records that were in there, three for $5, and they would rotate the stock every so often, right? And then we had a wall behind us that was sort of all the price ones. Most of that stuff was sort of on what the heck is the word I'm thinking about? Consignment.
Clearance. Okay.
Consignment. You'd bring it in and you'd say, I could sell records at the record, and they'd put it up there. They'd take 10%, and then you'd get whatever, right? Or it was like 30% or something. I don't remember what it was. So anyhow, so there was a guy named Andy, and Andy also did. He was the groundskeeper at this apartment complex that I worked at. So again, I'd see him in passing, and then we would get to talking about records, and oh hey, what records did you find? He would always sort of do that, like buy all his records on the weekend, go to the flea market and stuff like that, and then he'd bring them into the record store. He would buy all these records for like a quarter and 50 cents and a dollar, and then he would sell them for three for five, and he was making money, right?
Yeah.
So at that time, I was really obsessed with the Flying Burrito Brothers. So I would always tell him, I would always be like, "Hey, do you got anything Flying Burrito Brothers, Flying Burrito Brothers?" And I'd like ask him like every week. He's like, "No, no, no." And then one week, he would always like kind of show me, and pop the trunk in his car. He'd say like, "Oh, here's the records I had." So I'm in the parking lot like looking through his records and stuff like that. And he's like, "Hey, check out this record I found." And I'm like, "Okay." And I didn't know what it was. And maybe like about a month later, I found out what like he told me who the record was, and I was like, okay, this is great. But I don't know, I didn't know who I was, so I was just sort of like, yeah, okay, oh, that's cool, awesome, awesome, you found that. So then I found out who this artist was maybe about a month later, and but I at that time I moved away, and all I could think about was him popping the trunk on the car and like showing me this record, and it was sort of one of the ones that got away.
All
Um,
right.
but that record is Flying Shoes by Towns Van Zandt.
Okay.
So again, what can be completely different than the uh, Love Beach with Emerson, Lake and Palmer? Um,
Flying Shoes may be one of my favorite songs of all. If I was going to put together a top 10, that song would be on my list. Flying Shoes.
so this is this is the tomato pressing. This is an original, and of course, if you want these cheap, just go look at Fat Possum Records. Sign up for their sign up for their mail order, and then every once in a while they have like a 20% off sale. You can get them for like $12 for their vinyl or whatever. Um, Towns Van Zandt, Oldies Radio. Do you know who Towns Van Zandt is? It says looks interesting.
Flying Shoes.
I mean Loretta, uh, When She Don't Need Me, Rex's Blues.
Yep.
I mean, this
Is
is
Lungs on that record?
no, that's not on this one.
No.
No. But yeah, so it says dedicated to Casey Link Moman, born 16 March 1978. So I thought this came out maybe in like the summer of 78, something like that. So check out Towns Van Zandt, Oldies Radio. You will not be disappointed.
Not at all.
Towns Van Zandt is, man, I don't even know
He's
where to
a
begin.
he's a Texas Bob Dylan,
The Texas Bob Dylan. Okay. Um,
a country fried Bob Dylan.
he very interesting life. I think he's one of those people that are, um, they're basically like a genius, right?
Oh,
But like
completely.
his parents, like he was sort of born in a well-to-do family, right? Weren't they like? And he just wanted to sort of do his own thing.
He completely wanted to change the script and just
Yeah.
kind of go out on his own and make his own way.
But they also like they did electroshock to him right when he was a kid. I don't remember why that they
Right.
did that, but so he kind of some bad wiring and things like that. And um, I mean, I became obsessed with Towns Van Zandt.
Mm-hmm.
Be Here to Love
He,
You
well,
too. I'm
yeah,
sure you've
he
seen that DVD or you've seen that movie.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
right. I mean, he's one of those artists that it's very easy to become obsessed with him. It's very easy just to like him be completely astounded and then just want to digest everything they've put out.
yeah,
So I completely agree with that.
yeah. And I mean, and his albums are, I mean, there's really not much too much of a change with them. I mean, they kind of dance around sort of on that, like you said, like outlaw country, sort of a little bit of blues, things like that. He didn't really stray too much away from that, so his albums are fairly the same. So, if you kind of like that sort of, it's like downer folk, downer country kind of things. But man, he was,
He's not the artist to put on when you got a car full of your friends going out on a Friday night.
right.
But when it's an overcast, rainy day outside and you're by yourself, it's just about perfect.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna load up my player with some of his tunes tonight and listen to. But I mean, that's one that like I was like, oh man, I gotta pull that one out. So, but that's the Flying Shoes. That's my one story with that sort of the record that got away. And again, I didn't know what it was, but this cover was enough that I was like, oh yeah. He was like, hey, look at this record that I got at the flea market, and I'm like, ah, that's great. Did you find any Flying Burrito Brothers? Um, so, but man, what a great album. So,
Yeah,
1978 in a
70.
nutshell.
Yeah.
I think we had some crazy picks. I mean, I again, was I predictable? I'm glad that we both picked out that like
Maybe on just like your Elvis Costello, because I know how much you love that record,
yeah,
but not. Quick answer, no. But I knew that you were going to grab that Elvis Costello. So on that one, yes, but everything else was, that and the Grateful Dead, but everything else was a surprise.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, and I kind of figured too that I knew that you would leave. I was surprised that what the Ramones, that one, like what is that, Road to Ruin? Is that
Road to Ruin. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah,
why
that's
was that not on your list? So let me just ask you that
just
question.
be, just because I've shown Ramones before, but yeah,
Okay.
Road to Ruin I think is just as good as the first three. It's the first one with Marky. We talked about earlier when I was talking about Power Age. Road to Ruin is right up there too with just a sonically perfect record. Like it is just very sharp, and yeah, I Wanted Everything is one of my favorite Ramones songs. Bad Brain is on there, which is obviously where the Bad Brains got their name from.
Hmm.
Go Mental is great. That entire album, again, like I said, is just as good as the first three Ramones albums. Everybody talks about the first three Ramones album, but again, Road to Ruin, I think, is right there next to them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's yeah, I think it's Oldies Radio saying that we've added a lot to his watch later list. My
Well,
God, I hear
good.
yeah, I don't know. That's cool. I'm glad that that this was an enlightening episode. We definitely I think again stepped out of our comfort zone, not necessarily showing the stuff that was the usual kind of things. Um, what would you say, Steve, was your what was your out there pick? What was the one thing that you didn't think that I would have been the last thing you would have guessed that I would have shown?
Ooh, I'm going to say that's tough. That's tough.
Do you want me to
The last.
do you want me to? It was the last thing on my mind. Let me here. We'll recap, just in case
Okay.
for those just joining us. So Aerosmith live, Tom Waits, Blue Valentine, Bob Dylan, Street Legal, Rolling Stones, Some Girls, Willie Nelson, Stardust, Jerry Garcia Band, Cats Under the Stars, Nick Lowe, Pure Pop for the Now People, Elvis Costello, this year's Model, Flying Shoes, Towns Van Zandt, Grateful Dead, Shakedown Street, and Excitable Boy. They all say.
I'm gonna say Excitable Boy because I
Okay,
know that you and I have never really talked much about Warren Zevon,
we haven't.
or Towns Van Zandt. So like your bookend albums, I was really kind of surprised
Okay.
that you picked. Pleasantly surprised that you picked those albums. So
Hey,
what about same question?
ooh. So I felt like the Devo one was pretty predictable. I kind of figured that the Talking Heads were going to be in there as well too. Of course, the Kiss albums, I knew that I was gonna make a joke about it at the beginning of the show, and I didn't. But again, I knew that that was on there. I was maybe expecting like Bruce Springsteen, like Darkness at the Edge of Town.
You know
Was kind of
that
expecting that from you, but
that one is, I do have it written down here. That is one that I was going to talk about, but again, I didn't know how long we were going to go. But that I'm trying to think. I think I like The River a little bit more, but Darkness is a pretty good second choice. I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of Springsteen. Maybe not as periods, but like album to album.
mhm.
Like I really love The River. I really like Nebraska, but everything after that just kind of loses me. I'm a big fan of his first album, Greetings, but not so much his second record. Um, but yeah, Darkness is really good. That is, if you're just getting into Springsteen, that is probably the best jumping on point to see if that's what you're going to get into. But yeah, I love Darkness on the Edge of Town. That's a great record.
But that's another one that's just again Bruce Springsteen records you used to see all the time and you don't see anymore. So, oh
Any dollar for mine.
yeah, hey Uncle Bo's on. Hey Bo, how's it going?
Bo, what's up?
uh,
Stardust is my guess.
yeah, I mean, again, that I feel like that was just like a sort of a last minute kind of grab for me. But I was like, yeah, that's a great album from '78 that I don't think
Oldies
I talked
radio.
about.
I'm sorry. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry. Go
you
ahead.
got it.
I
You're all
completely.
good.
I'm sorry. No, I was ugly and cut you off. My bad. Um. Uh. Old Radio says, have you guys ever discovered stuff listening to random albums on YouTube? Yes. And let me tell you what a guy's YouTube page is that I do that very same thing. Hopefully, so
His
there's
name is
not dead air.
Earhead 6.
Bo is a very good what do you want to call it? A very good person to
Garage rock. Yeah.
Yes, let me. So there, gosh, this guy's videos got taken down. No, they didn't. Okay. I am going to copy this and I'm going to link it down here in the chat. So it is Hino Hendrich.
Hino?
He has got.
We talking about Hino records?
I don't think so. But this guy is all over the place. Like there is like this album called Mud from 1971 that's got a foot with mud on it. At least I hope to God it's mud. I've been listening and digging to that lately. There is some like obscure stuff on here. Earthquake from 1971. Have you ever heard that record, Mark? It's got a red cover and with Earthquake kind of shaky, obviously, and blue. That one's really good. Yeah, to me, if you're curious, Oldies Radio or anybody else out there, check this out. This guy has got hundreds and hundreds of videos and everything. I mean, they're all full records that the guy's posted, and all of this stuff is just obscure, private press, psychedelic stuff from all over the world. He's got stuff from South Africa. He's got stuff from Brazil. He's got stuff from the States, stuff from India. It's so great. So to answer your question, yes. I would encourage everybody to get lost on that channel because it is a lot of fun.
There you go. Oldies Radio did get my joke. He said, "Oh, that blonde German guy." That's right. So, do you know who Hino is?
Yeah. Okay. So, where's the glasses? And okay. Yeah. I was thinking Heidenreich from wrestling. You remember him? He was there for like 20 minutes in like 2005.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, we are going to pack it up and have ourselves an evening. So thank you for joining. Thank you for your conversation. Yeah. It's been a blast as always. Glad to be back. We will be back next week.
We will.
And we are going to start commencing on our Grateful Dead 50th anniversary of Europe 72, where we will follow along and update us each episode as whatever.
Yeah, we'll hammer out that whether we want to do a daily thing or probably just be easier just to like the beginning of the show, just kind of talk about show notes from whatever shows were that week. I think that'd probably be the easiest. Yeah.
And I think today was the 30th anniversary of Mania 3, I think I saw that somewhere. So, of course, Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan in the Pontiac Silverdome.
It's got to be older than that because that was what, 87?
And that would be 35 years ago.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 30th. My bad.
Maybe I did, but I think
it's okay.
It's at 35.
So
that's that. So thanks for joining.
The immovable object meets the.
Who knows?
Well, what's that called? That gorilla says the immortal one meets the immovable object.
When I was watching Survivor,
I'm butchering that.
Yeah, he was just making me so angry because he kept calling Brutus the Barber Beefcake Brudeye over and over and over again, and it was just annoying when he was doing that. I mean, yeah.
Gorilla.
Yeah.
All right,
guys. Have a good evening and a good weekend and all that stuff. And
Sports Truly.
Over and out.
Good night. Hino.
Brudeye.
Brudeye the barber beef. You need to go out, boo.
Gorilla.
Dance.